So Andor has shown us some very interesting aspects of the Imperial military, both Season 1 and Season 2, and I figured today we could take a look at one of the aspects that I really love, the fact that they didn't just show us Stormtroopers. Today let's talk about Andor's use of the Imperial Army. I'm Colin, and this is Sci-Fi Deep Dive. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to head down below and hit that subscribe button. Now, before we jump into this video actually likely won't contain very many specific spoilers for Season 2 of Andor. I'm talking about vague concepts and the Imperial units we see on screen, and I will try to avoid mentioning specific events, particularly those in Season 2. So if you are trying to avoid spoilers, I think you're pretty good here. So, as I've mentioned in videos in the past, the Imperial military gets kind of a reputation of just being a bunch of stormtroopers, and I think that's misguided. It's very clear now that the stormtroopers are more of an elite response force dealing with situations that are either crucial to the security of the Empire, involving key individuals from the Imperial government or military, or major military offensives in which the Empire wants their best troops forward. In basically every other situation, the Empire leans more heavily on the Imperial Army, as we see fighting during battles like the Battle of Mimban. The Imperial Army is often tasked with security operations in facilities that aren't crucial to Imperial security, and a variety of other activities across the Imperial military. So today I want to talk about how Andor displays this, and a little bit more about the relationship between the Stormtroopers and the Imperial Army, even though I won't delve too deep into that because I do have other videos on that. So all of this comes down to the fact that the Imperial Stormtroopers, that we often see as the face of the standard infantry of the Empire, that often get laughed at for being unable to hit characters with plot armor, are actually the elite special forces of the Empire. Well, maybe not quite special forces, but definitely an elite branch of infantry, and not necessarily the standardized infantry the Empire used in nearly every circumstance. So it makes sense we see Stormtroopers places like the Death Star, for example, the Empire's massive investment that holds some of the top Imperial military brass, and it's likely there are a bunch of Imperial Army soldiers there too, but most of the operations there would involve Stormtroopers because they need the best of the best. And it makes sense that during major offensives like the Battle of Hoth, which were designed to lead to the collapse of the Rebel Alliance, or the Battle of Endor, an Imperial trap set for Rebel forces, that the Empire is putting their best foot forward and putting their most elite and most capable forces on the front lines. It's even understandable that in peacetime, before the outbreak of the full-scale war between the Rebel Alliance and the Galactic Empire, that Imperial Stormtroopers would work their way into patrol duties around the galaxy, but at the end of the day, the primary infantry for use in most circumstances was still the Imperial Army, and that's what we see in Andor. Andor puts the Imperial Army first and foremost, and while there are still Stormtroopers, and we definitely see them particularly during the key events, they're not everywhere, and we see more Imperial Army soldiers than we do Stormtroopers, and I think this is a beautiful representation of the fact that the Imperial military is not just a bunch of white-clad Stormtroopers with armor that looks similar to the clone troopers that came before them, marching around under the command of gray uniformed officers. There's a variety of different forces at play here, from the standard issue forces of the Imperial Army, a variety of different officer classes, and the Stormtrooper Corps, as well as a number of other infantry elements within the Imperial military, many of which do tie back to the Stormtrooper Corps, but at its heart, the core of the infantry forces of the Imperial military are still the Imperial Army soldiers. And honestly, I find this refreshing, because a lot of times when pieces of Star Wars media want to show us Imperial forces, they often put the Stormtroopers front and center, this iconic helmet that's become known as the bad guy soldier helmet for decades. But seeing that they're taking sort of a back seat to the Imperial Army, and in some cases ISB Tactical, is refreshing. And it's nice to see Imperial forces that aren't just Stormtroopers. And I wanted to take a moment to just kind of acknowledge that. That's one of the things I really love about Andor, is it gives us a view of the Empire and their military that aren't just from the perspective of the heroes that are always taking on the most important missions in the history of the galaxy. Heroes that aren't attacking the Death Star or attempting to kill Darth Vader. Key Imperial military elements and assets that would definitely be guarded by the best of the best. Soldiers that are taking on the Empire on the streets of their home worlds, and in places that maybe the Empire doesn't put their best foot forward. And this also shows, by the way, that the Imperial Army, while they're not the Empire's premier soldiers, are not pushovers either. They're still capable military forces, and we see that in their deployment and their uses, from the Battle of Mimban all the way through to what we saw last season in Andor. And their armor and equipment, while not as effective as the armor and equipment utilized by the Stormtrooper Corps, are still very, very capable pieces of tech. So capable, in fact, that other elements of the Imperial military apparatus have actually borrowed them for use in their own operations, most notably being ISB Tactical, the tactical response units of the Imperial Security Bureau. If you'd like to learn more about ISB Tactical, I'll leave a link up here to a video I made all about those guys. And I'd like you to let me know down in the comments what you thought of Andor putting the Imperial Army soldiers first, and showing us more of the Imperial Army than of the Stormtrooper Corps. Would you prefer that the Stormtroopers always take front and center when seeing Imperial infantry forces, or do you find it refreshing to see something other than white-clad Stormtroopers all the time when we're talking about the Imperial infantry? And if you have anything else you'd like to see me cover in Star Wars or anywhere else in science fiction, you can let me know down below in the comments. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.